Hello everyone, my name is Perez, and I'm here to discuss the four questions that we had for this assignment. The first question was to identify and evaluate how the linguistic, sociocultural, and pedagogical features of the DLE program impact our students' performance. Well, we already know that all of these are very important components that must work together, for not only the program, but for also the students to be able to succeed. Now, the linguistic impact, that was the first one. We read about Collier and Thomas, where they said that for a student to acquire cognitive and academic success in their second language, the student's first language must be developed to a high cognitive level throughout the elementary school years. What this means is that we need to make sure that the students learn their native language in the early years of schooling, because this then will help them master their second language. We also learned about Cummins' linguistic interdependence hypothesis that says that once the student masters their first language, they can then translate those skills learned to their second language. So it is possible for our students to transfer the skills and the knowledge that they were able to attain in their first language to the other language. Now, we must keep in mind that this usually takes about 5 to 7 years for the child to acquire a second language well enough for them to be able to function academically. For the social cultural impact, we do know that our students and our families do face negative social cultural issues in the schools. But the good thing is that the DLE program helps build the bonds between the families and the schools, and it also helps with the stigma that the student's native language has. Now, how this is done is that the program doesn't separate the students, but it integrates both populations of students um, into one classroom, where then the student is seen as a valued partner but is knowledgeable in their primary language. This then helps the parents also, because they are seen as able they are then able to participate in school activities, because now they feel welcome, valued, and respected. So this means, if you put it all together, that by nurturing these cultural heritage, we are then promoting friendship across social classes and language boundaries. So this helps the parents, it helps the students, and it helps the schools. For the pedagogical impact, we are implementing the DLE program, and it is very taxing on everyone that's involved, because it's an enormous amount of time that we spend on planning, and it's very hard, for us to then also make sure that the students master the content in two languages. Therefore, we need to prepare ahead of time with resources. Also, our professionals and our leaders that run the school, they need to also promote the program with fidelity. And at the same time that they're doing all of this, they must also deal with the challenges of the NCLB, which is accountability and the high stakes testing. But what we have to gain at the end is that we need to remember all the positive things that the bilingual program has. It promotes integration, it treats languages of both groups as a resource, and it helps parents and schools, build that bond again. Our second question, let me look for it. Our second question was to describe and explain the factors that may contribute to the success of the DLE program. Well, we know there are a lot of factors that help, with the program's overall success, such as, high levels of bilingualism and biliteracy. We have, academic, achievement. We have cross-cultural competence for all students. And one of the first ones that I wanted to talk about was, the program's goals. We know that, one of the goals for the program is to develop the students' academic language in both their native tongue and in a second language. Therefore, this program has the option of integrating, the native English speaker and the ELO learner in the same classroom through a two-way program, where both populations of the students get to learn from each other. Through this type of cohort, both populations of students are seen as a valued partner, with all of this knowledge in their first language. So then the student is also seen as an individual with prominent resources, and that the other population can then find useful, towards achieving academic proficiency. Another factor could be also that this program has, very high successful results for both ELL and native English speakers. We have read how research, and let me find that. Um, Research shows that the students in this program, perform at or above grade level on standardized reading and mathematics tests in English, and that by fifth grade they can score similar to their statewide peers. This helps ELLs because they can also close the achievement gap, and they can also outperform their native English speaking peers in their English only classroom. And another, I guess, factor would be that this program extends their accomplishments, to students of, diverse cultures, of socioeconomic, linguistic, and I think the other one was special needs backgrounds. Therefore, this program can really promote, academic performance to a lot of populations, especially the ones that are identified as at risk or, for failure. The third question that we had was to discuss and evaluate the challenges school may experience when implementing the DLE program. Now, no matter what type of program the school does decide to use, the students are constantly being asked to perform well in high stakes standardized assessments, and this then helps make the decision where the student is at. Well, this is because under the No Child Left Behind, and its mandates on accountability, standards, and the high stakes testing, it requires that all students make adequate yearly progress on state tests. Therefore, teachers spend a considerable amount of time, instructional time, I know I do, on administering these tests that are deemed, and we know this, that are deemed invalid and unreliable towards our students. We also have how state policies, and their accountability, they do threaten a lot of programs on being eliminated. And it might be because ELLs, take a longer time to develop their L1 and their L2. Therefore, they cannot perform the same as the native English speakers on tests. So what do schools do when this happens? Well, most of the time they decide to increase the students' English in the classroom, with hopefully the hopes that they become, English proficient sooner. This then changes the dynamic of the DLE program, especially for the upper grades who are, annually tested by the state. And going back also to the time factor, since it takes longer time for the program to show its benefits, administrators and teachers need to prepare themselves for, the concerns of accountability, and, they need to learn to use the data that, that the program has, to make sure that the native English speakers and the ELLs, are making this expected progress. With this said, the schools use, multiple measures to assess the students' progress in both languages and to make sure, that they're meeting their state goal. So we don't only have to do it, one way. We could do it, a bunch of other ways. And one of the ways is how the DLE program has different assessment tools to be able to measure how the student is doing in both languages. Our last question, let me see if I can find it. Our last question is to discuss and interpret social political implications of the success or failure of the DLE program. Well, one of the challenges that the DLE program has is having to deal with the assessment and accountability issues by the state and local policies, especially since they're constantly contradicting each other because they don't really know, how to teach the students, or no, they are teaching, well, they are made to teach the students in one language, and they don't know how to promote literacy in two languages, especially for our bilingual students. So, by keeping this in mind, accountability and the assessment factors do impact, the program's effectiveness and how well it does, in the districts and with our students. Um, I guess this is my answers for all four questions. Thank you.